So hello students, let us solve the question number 3. It was a easy question, it's a direct theory. The question number 3 says that C be a subset of R endowed with the subspace topology. Okay, C is a subset of R endowed with subspace topology. If every continuous real valued function on C is bounded, so it is given that every continuous real valued function on C is bounded, then we have to prove this C is compact. Okay, so we need to prove this C is compact. Okay, so actually there are lots of proofs. Among all of the proof, I am going to tell you the easiest one. Okay, first of all, C is a subspace. C is a subset of R with subspace topology. Now we know that I am considering R with usual metric. Okay, now we know that the usual metric induces the usual topology, so I can consider this subspace C as usual submetric space. Okay, so this C is nothing but our subspace of usual metric space. So we know that in a metric space a set is compact if and only if every sequence has a convergent subsequence, right? So first of all, we will show that C is compact, right? We need to show C is compact. Now we know that a set is compact if and only if every sequence has convergent subsequence. So if possible, let I am claiming if possible, let C is not compact. So C is not compact implies there exists a sequence in C which has no convergent subsequence, right? We know that a set is compact if and only if every sequence has convergent subsequence. As the C is non-compact, then I can say that there exists a sequence which has no convergent subsequence. Therefore, there exists a sequence xn in C which has no convergent subsequence, right students? Okay, C which has no convergent subsequence. Now observe that I can claim each term of this xn is isolated, or each element of xn is isolated, claiming each point for each n belongs to natural number, xn singleton set xn is isolated. Now if there exists a k belongs to natural number such that xk is not isolated, then I can say that this a point is not isolated, then it must be a limit point. Then xk is a actually this is the set notation is not correct. I am using the point notation. Okay, so I am going to use the point notation. Just a second. Yeah, xn xk is not isolated, then xk is a limit point of xn such that n belongs to natural number, right? Now if xn is a limit point of this sequence, we know that a point is limit point if and only if it is a subsequential limit, and hence there exists a subsequence xrn of xn such that limit n tends to infinity xrn is equal to xk, right? And hence I can say that this is a contradiction, as it is given that this sequence xn has no convergent subsequence, and hence therefore for any n belongs to natural number xn is isolated. right? Then for any n belongs to natural number, xn is isolated. Now let us define a map. Let f such that xn to R defined by f of xn is equal to n for all n belongs to natural number, right? Now this is an unbounded sequence, this is an unbounded function, then f is unbounded, right? Now f is unbounded, and what can I say about the continuity of f? Now observe that each point is isolated, so f is, we know that a function is always continuous at the isolated points, and therefore f is continuous on xn, right? So f is continuous on xn, n equal to 1 to infinity. Now observe that as all I am considering this set A is equal to xn. Okay, so what about the derived set of A? Each point of xn is isolated, so derived set is 5, so this is a subset of A, and hence A is closed, right? So f is a continuous function on a closed set. We know that any continuous function on a closed subset of R can be extended to the whole set, so f can be extended to a continuous function G such that C to R, where G restricted on A is equal to F, right? So you can see that G is continuous, G such that C to R is continuous, and as F is unbounded, then G is unbounded. Therefore, we can conclude that there exists a continuous unbounded function G such that C to R, which is a contradiction, as it is given that every continuous function from C to R must be bounded. So I can say our assumption is wrong, and hence C is compact. Okay, so this completes the proof of our question number 3. Let's solve the question number 4. Okay, so we have done it. Let's solve the question number 4. So students, let's solve the question number 4, which says that A is equal to Aij via n cross n matrices such that Aij is equal to 0 for all I greater equal to j. Okay, if summation I equal to 0 to k, Ci Ai is equal to 0 for some Ci belongs to R, then prove that C0 and C1 must be 0. Here Ai denotes the ith power of A. Okay, so it again is a very easy question. So first of all, observe the what can you say about the matrix A. So I am writing this matrix A is equal to I am writing any n cross n matrix, that is A11, A12 dot dot A1n, A21, A22 dot dot A2n, and AN1, AN2 up to ANN, right students? So what can you say about the matrix A? It is given that Aij is equal to 0 whenever the first term is greater or equal to the second term. So I can say all the terms below the principal diagonal, including the terms in the diagonal, is equal to 0. Okay, you can say A11 is equal to I and j are same, so this is 0. A21, here I is 2 and j is 1, so this is 0, so that all the terms would be 0. So the matrix A of the form A12 dot dot A1n, 0 0 A23 dot dot A2n, and 0 0 dot 0. And hence what I can say about the matrix A, this A is strictly triangular matrix. Right? This A is strictly triangular matrix. Okay, now we are using a fact, any strictly triangular matrix must be nilpotent. Any strictly triangular matrix must be nilpotent. Okay, any strictly triangular matrix must be nilpotent. Now I am considering this matrix as A, so as A is strictly triangular, then A is nilpotent. Right? A is nilpotent means A to the power k is equal to 0 for some k belongs to natural number. Right? Now, if A to the power k is equal to 0, I can say A satisfies the polynomial x to the power k, right? So A satisfies the polynomial of x to the power k, and hence I can say that x to the power k is an annihilating polynomial of A, right? I can say x to the power k is an annihilating polynomial of A. Now x to the power k is an annihilating polynomial of A. Now let us consider a minimal polynomial. I am writing mx is the minimal polynomial of A. Minimal polynomial of A. Now we know that minimal polynomial always divides any annihilating polynomial, then mx divides x to the power k. Then what are the possibilities of mx? Mx is x to the power r, where 1 less or equal to r less or equal to k, and r belongs to natural number, right students? Now I am claiming that this r cannot be 1. If r is equal to 1, then minimal polynomial mx is equal to r. That would imply mx is equal to x to the power r, and we know that every matrix so the value of r is equal to 1, so that would be x, so A is equal to 0, so A becomes 0 matrix, but it is given that A is a non-zero matrix, so this r starts from 2. Then the minimal polynomial of x, at least x to the power r, where 2 less or equal to r less or equal to k, right? Now observe this polynomial, okay? So summation, I am considering summation I is equal to 0 to, I think that was k ci a to the power I, k ci a to the power I equal to 0. So they are saying that when you are putting I equal to 0, so that is c0 into I plus c1 into a plus dot dot ck a to the power k is equal to 0. So from this I can say A satisfies the polynomial c0 plus c1x plus dot dot ck a to the power ck x to the power k. A satisfies this polynomial. Now we know that minimal polynomial, so A satisfies this polynomial, so this is an annihilating polynomial, and minimal polynomial always divides any annihilating polynomial, so mx divides this c0 plus c1x plus dot dot ck x to the power k. Now observe that the minimal polynomial of x is minimum x to the x square, so x square divides x to the power k minus 1 till to x square, x cube and x square, right? But x square does not divide x, and x square does not divide 1, and hence as mx divides this, so I can say c0 and c1 must be equal to 0, otherwise mx cannot divide this. Okay, are you getting my point? What I am saying, I am repeating my argument again. So minimal polynomial of x at least x square, so it might be x cube, x to the power 4, x to the power 5, all of this. So minimal polynomial of A may be, so minimum the power of x is 2, so mx divides this polynomial. Now you can see mx divides x cube, x to the power 4 till to x to the power k, but what I am saying, x square divides x square divides x cube dot dot x square divides till to x to the power k, but x square is not dividing x and x square is not dividing the constant term c0. So this mx divides this if and only if c0 and c1 is equal to 0. Otherwise this mx cannot divide this polynomial, and hence I can say that c0 and c1 is equal to 0. So this completes the proof. If mx is equal to x cube, then we can conclude mode till to c2 is equal to 0. If mx equal to x to the power 4, we can conclude till to c3 is equal to 0. So as the minimum is x squared, so I can conclude c0 and c1 is equal to 0. Okay, so this completes the proof of this. So it was an easy question, right? If you know the fact any strictly triangular matrix is nilpotent, then it is easy to you. So that's all about this question. Let's solve the next question. Okay.